Hi. Welcome back to continuing the conversation with Sadie, the space where we slow down, look beneath the surface, and explore the systems, structures, and human stories that shape care, leadership, and the way we live and work. In series three, we're looking closely at leadership and systems, not in theory, but in the real world. The world where decisions land in people's lives, the world where culture, workforce, equity, and accountability shape whether people feel safe, valued, and supported. Today, I'm joined by someone whose leadership has shaped the care sector for decades. Through crisis, through reform, and through the ongoing fight for a system that recognises the dignity and value of those who draw on care and those who deliver it. Nadra Ahmed CBE is Executive Chairman of the National Care Association, a national leader in social care, and one of the most influential voices representing providers, workforce, and community. With over 40 years' experience, she has advised governments at ministerial levels, steered the sector through major policy shifts, and consistently championed the rights, recognition, and respect of the care workforce. Nadra is known for her clarity, courage, and unwavering advocacy, bringing truth into rooms where decisions are made, challenging assumptions, and pushing for a system that works with people, not against them. Nadra, I am so glad you're here.
Bless you. Thank you, Sadie. That's a bit of an introduction, isn't it?
Well, it's all through, and I'm so grateful you're here. And I know you're a very, very busy lady. So thank you so much for your time. I've said it off air and on air with my listeners because it's so true. So thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to go into section one of the questions. So we like to start with origins, leadership, and challenging the system. So my first question to you today is you've spent decades shaping national conversations about care, workforce, and system reform. What first drew you into this work? And when did you realize the system needed a fundamentally different approach?
So it was by accident. I came into the sector quite by accident. I am a teacher by profession.
Wow.
And I specialize in history. So I'm a historian that worked in.
Really interesting. I've got two or three of these experts who say that as well. I love
Really?
that. Yes.
Well, so
Really
so
interesting.
it was post marriage that I came into the sector. It wasn't something that was designed.
Yeah.
But I think in the years that I was at school, there was a period of time where you used to go and do a bit of voluntary work. I think that's been reintroduced a little bit more in education now. So
Yeah.
when I was at secondary school, and I used to go and visit 83-year-old lady
Yeah.
who lived alone in her flat down the road from me,
Oh.
at where I live, and she was very switched on. She was just a bit slow,
Yeah.
and she used to like going into London. She used to work in London, and she used to liked going into London. So from that sort of school days, and I carried that on until she sadly passed away, I would take her to London for the day, and we would go somewhere where she wanted to go. So I
Yeah.
think it was probably in me that I enjoyed the company of older
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, and I
I'm the
think
same.
being a historian, that probably isn't brand new information, because what they tell you about their lives and that, it's all part and parcel of how we get to where we are.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No,
Okay.
so I kind of fell into it when after I got married, my in-laws opened a care home,
Mm.
and the I think the kind of view was that I would then take it on. I'd never done anything like that before, so I think that was the kind of learning curve from a 10-bedded kind of care service, moving it on to 40 beds. It became very clear, and I'm talking about the 1980s,
Yeah.
that there was no kind of formal education for workforce. The
Mm.
whole thing was about caring for people. But of course, the people we then supported used to have cars. They used to walk in. They were really quite compos mentis. They didn't need anything more than a kind of a bed and breakfast type. They were either lonely because,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
or there was some challenge about being able to really self care,
Yeah.
and they made those decisions themselves. They weren't through a social services package. They weren't through anything
Yeah.
what you would recognise today.
Yes.
Very often people would just turn up and say that's what they wanted. So that was kind of the origins of it. But the early days of how you trained your staff, how you got them to understand what was needed, that kind of came naturally from my teaching background.
Yeah.
And I was able to do the induction piece, which was very simple, how, the water temperatures, how to test the water, how to give somebody a bath, how to make a
Yeah.
bed, all those kinds of
Yeah.
things. So I kind of did that quite willingly. So I think that was my introduction. So it wasn't something that was designed.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with
And
the
that's the thing.
people.
You were aligned with it, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I really enjoyed working not only with the workforce that I had, but a workforce that I didn't really know until then, which was people like the chefs.
Yeah.
That wasn't something that you worked with, building up menus and stuff like that. So those were interesting new learning curves. I don't think I ever did anything in those early days to train me as a leader.
Yeah.
But being the owner of
Yeah.
a service makes you the leader of that service, generally speaking.
Yes.
So we did, and I was only sort of dealing with the operational side, not anything else,
Yeah.
which was really quite enlightening into how do you gain respect? How
Yeah.
do you work with people and take them with you?
I love the fact that you had a history in history. Basically, there's another expert who literally said what you just said as well when it comes to how did they fall into it. Um, and I found it very interesting that for me, with care, we talk about care at a human level, the human side of care. But also, what I find very interesting is that people who've done history tend to have a very good understanding of what's called generational care. And so, when you walk into a room with the elderly, I think your depth of, what they've been through and what they've done in their lives really adds to the quality of care you provide for these people. That was kind of what I was getting from it. I don't know if you agree, but I just found that really interesting because I do think that if you've got a good education, it does help you do the job. I was just going to ask as well, when did you realize the system needed a fundamentally different approach? Because that was the second part of the question.
Yeah, I think fundamental change, sort of probably in the early 80s, it was becoming, there were government policies which were showing that the social security bill was
Yeah.
getting bigger and bigger, and you could see that there were some challenges emerging. I think the system change when it came to education
Mm,
was very quick. That we needed a skilled workforce that would
yes.
deliver so from the workforce perspective, it was apparent that this was a different way of working.
Yes.
I used to get quite worried about interviewing staff who would say, "Well, it's like looking after children." And that used to make me cringe. And I kind of really needed to get them,
Thinking
out of
differently.
that psyche or they wouldn't last. Because looking after older folk isn't like looking after
No.
children. When you're with children, you are training them, you're supporting them to learn,
Yeah.
to
Learn to
understand,
expect.
to grow. Yeah. To grow into adults and hold meaningful kind of
Mm,
roles in society.
that's right.
With older folk, supporting people who've lived that life,
Yes.
and they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience,
Yes.
and they have a right to a different kind of respect to children. So I
Yeah.
think that was the first kind of awakening that we needed to change the culture and the
Yeah.
psyche of what social care actually did deliver at that point in
Yeah.
time. Um, and then we started to see all the kind of changes in because of the funding. It's always been just so I'm speaking to you, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm mentioning funding
Yeah.
again, but
Yeah.
it has
Things
always been
funding.
funding led, isn't it? That
Yes.
it is the money that has caused the
Yeah.
change in
Yes.
policy.
Yeah.
It's about saving. It's always, when it comes to social care, it's always about how we can save money.
Yeah.
There's not enough recognition in the process
Yeah.
about evolution. And the evolution only comes because providers invest in the sector,
Yeah.
the providers that invest.
That's right. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. And that's why you're here today to educate us all and to hopefully bring us a little bit further forward. Absolutely. I just wondered as well, I know you said it was in the 80s that you started to see fundamental changes. Was there anything else happen, a moment that made you say this isn't working and something has to change?
Yeah, I mean, I think what was happening, obviously, we had an aging population,
Yes.
and it was very clear that that was going. And I always remember a geriatrician giving a lecture somewhere, and listening to him, and he showed the curve of how the acceleration of the need for social care was going to
Yeah.
happen. And I think
Yes.
that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me because
Yeah.
I realized that the current processes weren't going to cut it.
Yes. I have the infrastructure.
And we started to see the closure of specialist services, mental
Mm.
health hospitals and all of those. And they started to spill over into the social care sector. I remember even in our care service, we used to have a really big mental health hospital. And when they were closing that hospital, we started to get these kind of social workers coming along and saying, well, would you be able to look after these people for us? We were a care setting. There was nothing wrong with them. Something had happened in their lives that had made them end up in these kind of mental health hospitals where they didn't
Yeah.
really need to be. They were
Yeah.
either because they'd had children out of wedlock and then they'd been institutionalized. And the system was beginning to move in that direction. So the
Yes.
NHS was even at that point, the NHS was beginning in the late 80s
Yeah.
um,
Be an
to kind of
institution.
drop off their
Yeah.
services. They were beginning to move. Of course, once you bring people in from those, and we did, we took 6 people as we grew. We went to the 40 beds, and it just happened at that sort of time. We took
Yeah.
6 people from those mental health hospitals.
Yes.
So there were 4 ladies and 2 gentlemen, and their behavioural changes of coming and living in a care setting
Mm.
rather than a mental health hospital was really interesting. Within about a year, they had integrated in a way that they were
Yeah.
beginning to live meaningful lives rather
Yes.
than being told what to eat, when to eat, take their meds,
Yeah.
and all of that. And one lady, we got her off I think we got her off about 60% of the meds that she'd been
Yeah.
put on.
I
And
love
that
that.
sort of the awareness
Yeah.
starts within you then that actually that this isn't working and
Yeah.
social care could do so much more.
I
And
love that answer. Yeah.
I was beginning to get into the national kind of picture at that stage, which again was by accident. Nothing is by design in my
Yeah.
life, but it is one of those things,
It's
isn't it, where
human.
you
It's being
go,
human, isn't
you
it? Life isn't linear.
evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that was a gripping moment, I think, in many ways that we started to see. I mean, we definitely had a sort of pushback from some of the families that had put their loved ones' care into our service, thinking, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, they've got mental health people coming." But it's talking with people, and it's actually every single day we raise the awareness of somebody somewhere in our lives, and we have our awareness raised. That is a
Yeah.
learning curve of life, isn't it? Because
Yes.
none of us wake up knowing everything, but at the end of the
No, God.
day, we'll know something that we didn't know, and that's how it works for me.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's why I do home care because I see a lot of change and progress within my clients' behavior when they're at home where they want to be. I can obviously help them by providing the right environment for them to thrive. So I really love that. That's great because you need choice. You need choices for people and you need people to thrive in the right environment. You're often described as a steady, courageous voice in difficult spaces. How do you see your role in the wider movement for a fairer, more sustainable, more human care system?
I mean, that's an interesting description. I don't ever think of myself as being courageous. I hope
You
I am a steady voice.
you
I hope
are.
that
Absolutely.
what I say makes sense for the people that I support. And I mean, that's all that matters in many ways because
Yeah.
not every idea that I have is a light bulb moment from me. It's usually from talking to people that I come to a position where I think, actually, we need to do something about this because I've heard this too often. And I think
Yeah.
that's how it works. To be steady, to be consistent, is to make sure that the only voices that you are responding to in the privileged position that I have of being able to pick up a phone and speak to ministerial teams and indeed
Yeah.
ministers as well, that I have the right backing, the right knowledge, the right message that will make things better. We
Yeah.
we are a process-driven society, and especially in social care, it is about process. For example, anything to do with funding, we try and put everybody in a same square box and say, we will give you £900 to look after this person. But then we also want people to have a personalized care service. Well, the two don't make sense
And I'm
because
a PA,
somebody
so
might
I
not.
know my personal.
Yeah, you know that, don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
you know that much better than I. Because 900, but for some people, it may be that they only need, they don't need the full 900, and for other people, they need more than the 900 to be supported because of the level of care that they need, because they need to be really supported in a different way. So we can't keep talking about it. This
No.
process driven, we contradict ourselves, well, not we so much, but policy contradicts itself by talking about personalisation. You've got the Care Act, you've got all these tools that
Yeah.
bring you into delivering care in the right way. But actually, when you sit back,
Mm.
it all comes back to the money.
Yeah. And you're the voice for that. Your role for, within the system is to voice our concerns to the higher ups and to
Absolutely.
get it out
Yeah.
there. So thank you for that. I just want to move on to section two. I think from there we follow on nicely into workforce power and the human impact of system failure. I just want to ask, you've been clear for years that the workforce is the backbone of the care system, yet often the least valued. What do you wish leaders and policymakers truly understood about the realities facing the workforce today?
Well, firstly, they need to understand how highly skilled they are.
Yeah. So we're
Because
talking
our
about
workforce is
professionalism.
highly skilled, and we
Yeah.
need to take that on board. We need to create that curriculum that will bring us into that, to being able to be recognized as professionals because we know they're highly skilled.
Yes.
The one that I use always, and I apologize to anyone who's heard it 100 times before, but when we're talking about medication in a hospital setting, a nurse gives out medication. In social care, we train our workforce to give out
Mm,
medication.
mm.
And that is just a very simple comparator that shows just how important it is. So that acknowledgement, with acknowledgement comes value.
Yeah.
If you don't value the work that's done in social care, then I think we do have challenges. We have to highly motivate our workforce because what we're able to pay them isn't what we think they're worth. It's what
Yeah.
we're forced into getting to.
Thank
And
you
I
for
know
being honest about that.
I think it's just such a strange concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we want them, they're highly skilled. We want them to be acknowledged as being highly skilled. And I think if I was a cynic, I would say that the reason that doesn't happen is because government recognizes that if we did go down that professionalization route, they would have to pay a lot more for
Yeah.
us to be able to employ our workforce. So I think this is something that has always fallen off the edge of every minister's desk, because you would think it would be the simplest thing ever to create that professional ladder for social care because we've already got one in.
Yeah.
your hospital care. If we were talking about integration, for example, which we've talked about quite a lot over the
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
the simplest thing would be to integrate the workforce knowledge base because
Mm.
it wouldn't be rocket science. We'd just be
Yeah.
HCAs in social care workforce would be doing the same training and education because we're looking after people in a very similar setting.
Maybe that's where the problem lies, though, in integration, because people do not share knowledge. They do not share their power. And that's maybe what we need to look into, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting you use the word power because I don't think power brings anything. If it did, we would be moving in a very a different direction. I think power corrupts, personally. I think it does make people not want to share.
Yeah. But if we
Go
talk
on.
about how people feel, I completely agree with you, but they do feel like they're giving some of their power away, their personal human power, when it comes to knowledge and skills, when they start sharing.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
talking about that sort of human side power imbalances and things like that.
Yeah, and yes, I see it from that angle, absolutely, because sharing knowledge seems to be, people do tend to hold on to it. You're quite
Yeah.
right, don't
Yeah.
they? Because there's
Yeah.
that whole term about knowledge is power.
Yeah.
But in our world, that power should be used to make things easier and better
Well,
for the people
absolutely.
for the
Yeah.
people that we support. Ultimately, Sadie,
I don't-
ultimately, the only reason we do what we do is because we want to make the lives of those
Yeah.
people
We
who
want
put
to
their
help.
trust in us better. That's what we want to do. And the enabler there is our workforce. Because without the workforce, we couldn't do it. So it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter how much power you have or whatever. If we don't get a workforce that is acknowledged, valued, supported, and properly paid,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be able to deliver the care. And that's where what we found, when we had I think Brexit was the kind of point where we had the highest level of vacancies because we could see homes could not run anymore.
Yeah.
Home care
Yeah. No,
was,
that's a fair point. Yeah.
without it, it just isn't there. It doesn't matter what the power base was at that time. Actually, if you've not got the people behind you, with you, walking the road with you,
Mm.
you're not going to be able to deliver.
Yeah. And also, breaching on everything you've just said, I think it's about empowering people to realize
Exactly.
they can make a difference, because that can go the other way.
It's that they do make a difference. It's not just that
Yeah.
they can, it's that they do every
They
day.
do, but it's making them feel valued so they leave,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know? We're s I think we're saying the same things, but this is why you're here, because 'cause you're coming from it from a bigger picture point of view, and I'm more of a micro provider, so I'm seeing the sort of smaller details, but it's great because when you bring it together, you can start to see a bigger picture. Many of our listeners work in care, health, or community services where relationships are everything. What happens emotionally and practically when systems are designed without the people they're meant to serve or the people delivering the care?
Well, you set it up to fail, don't you? Because if you don't
Yes.
carry anything through
Yeah,
with the people with you, then
you
it
do.
is set up to fail. And this is why consultations have become a massive buzzword over the last. And, we've got consultations coming out of our ears,
Yeah.
but consultation has to be adhered to.
Yes, they do.
So you can't end. I remember speaking to a health secretary some time ago, quite some time ago, and I won't say the timings because then you'll be able to work out who it was.
Yeah.
But having quite a conversation where
Mm.
the response to something I'd said was, "Well, let's have a consultation on it and and then we'll do it." And it was almost in that way. And I said, "Well, a consultation might say you shouldn't do it." And I couldn't get this particular person to understand
Mm.
that the end result wasn't gonna be what they thought it was going to be. It
Right.
might be
Yeah.
different. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I do.
consultation isn't just there to say, "Well, we consulted and
That's
now we're
right.
gonna do
Yeah.
X," which
I
is
do a
what
lot of
sometimes what
consultations. I
happens.
agree.
Yeah, yeah, and I just I remember it so well, and
Mm.
it was a really kind of it was a point that was being made, and I've thought about it quite a lot recently wherever I've spoken.
It's a very
It
good
was
point.
just isn't something that we we think about enough. It is really important to take people with you. And the
Yeah.
people you need to take with you are the people that work with you.
Yeah. That we're aligned.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I think, it's interesting. Recently, I've had this kind of conversation with somebody about, good leadership, about giving workforce, everything that they ask for. And I think there's a challenge in that as well, because
Yeah.
true ownership of a service is that you work in the best interest of the service. So you
Yes.
do everything you possibly can to enable things to happen. But actually, that is something that you have to think very carefully about, because if you're asking for, I don't know, 20% pay rise, and you think that your provider isn't giving you that, and that's why they're not a good provider. You have to think, why is that happening? It's
Yeah.
happening because they're trying to keep that business sustainable for a period of time. And actually, if they did agree to it,
Mm.
would the business still be alive at the end of the day? So there are two ways of it: the employee understanding the business pressures, but they'll only understand it if you talk it through with them.
Yeah, I agree, but I do think, again, when we go revisit values, you know, carers being skilled, being valued, there is a very set price on what they pay them. And that has changed very little over the years. And I think we're getting to a point now where care workers have just had enough. They're fed up of waiting for that pay rise. They're fed up of being understanding. So I think we need to have that consultation, that risk assessment about what's really going on. Even if they can't pay them, I don't think carers truly know what's going on
And
and the
I think that's
situation.
why it's so important to have the conversations and take people with you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think, and the thing is, perception is always half truths. When you
yeah,
perceive that a service is doing really, really well,
mm,
um, it should be based on the level of care that you're providing, not
yeah,
on the furniture that's in the building or whatever it might be. I think there are all sorts of perception points here, but I agree with you. Our workforce deserves to be paid more than we can afford to
yeah,
pay. And I say that with more than afford comes into my, because I support small to medium sized providers. I don't support we do have some in membership. So, we don't have large providers, the corporates that are charging. When people talk about, well, I'm paying £2,000 a week for the care, etc. I think those people, whatever their business models are, then do need to be paying their workforce properly.
yeah,
And that needs to be the clarity around this.
yeah.
And you've
Thank
got a
you.
provider who's getting £700 a week for a care service,
Mm,
or a home care provider who's being paid, I don't know, £18 an hour for the service they provide. It's not rocket science that the
no,
margins are so small,
yeah,
that making the wrong decision could put that service at risk.
yeah. We're going to talk about the human cost of underfunding now, not just the physical cost. So, you've witnessed the human cost of underfunding, fragmentation, and political short termism, but also the transformation that happens when care is done well. What patterns do you see in how individuals, providers, and communities cope, resist, or thrive depending on the system around them?
Think is the word that comes to mind is the professionalism about making things happen properly.
Yes.
So to make anything thrive, there has to be a golden mixing bowl, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have to crack a number of eggs and
Ingredients.
flour and ingredients
I
to
can
make
do
it
that.
happen. It's that sort
Not
of
that I
thing,
like
isn't it?
spoons or
What
anything.
do you put in there? What do you put
Yeah,
in there? And that's got to be about the value,
yeah,
acknowledgement, all the things. And the workforce, again, is the key there.
yeah,
The key point is that how much do you as an employer value your workforce as
yeah,
well? It's not just what the outer
yeah. I'm not going to apologise because that's what this is about. It's getting us all thinking a little bit deeper on a human level about care, because care is care and it's so important. And you're an expert, you're brilliant at what you do. And I just want to really delve into your knowledge and your experience.
Think if we all start from the point that the person in front of us who needs care and support is the most important person,
Yes.
then everything around it is what matters.
Yeah.
And recently I was talking to somebody, um, and I was saying to them, for every one person that we care for or we support
Mm.
in our services, be they home care, care home, learning disabilities, for every one person, we're probably supporting another 8 people around them.
Yeah.
And that's their families and
That's
their
it.
friends
Yeah.
for whom it
That,
makes a
that's
difference.
where
So
I'm going.
the value that we put in to
Mm.
communities to enable people to go out to
Yeah.
work, to enable
Yeah.
people to contribute to the
This is it.
economy.
Yeah. And
That's the bit. Go on.
these are important points, really important points, because it's like, as we've explained in other series, you throw that pebble in the water, it has a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And I think that's the bit. I mean, yesterday I was doing an interview on the Casey comment in The Guardian about unpaid carers.
Yeah.
And, we mustn't ever forget that army, that silent army of unpaid
Yeah.
carers.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about paid carers here.
But this is for any carers at any level. This is the whole. I put it out there that it's for paid, unpaid. This is for all of us to understand. So it's
And
all
so
relevant.
for the unpaid care, this silent army of
Mm.
unpaid carers who are actually holding up.
Yeah.
It's one of the big, say if we had pillars in social care, it'd be one of the pillars that is holding up
Yeah.
social
It would.
care
And
because those
volunteers.
are and volunteers, and those are the people that we have to think really, really carefully about as
Yeah.
well.
Absolutely.
Because if their system breaks, it
Mm.
breaks quite, so one unpaid carer who suddenly has a heart attack or something because of the pressure of the work they're under or their health suffers has not only got the impact on that individual that they've cared for themselves and the wider
Yeah.
family, it all kind of falls apart. I
Yeah.
think
It
within
does.
social care, when one service folds, it has an impact. That ripple
Yeah.
effect on not only the individual that then has to find a new service or a new
Yeah.
home, it has an impact on a whole community where people
Yeah.
will have been settled. I find it quite challenging when homes close, and I've had to close a home, and
Mm.
I know
Yeah.
how people how it affects people. So the baseline of everything we do has to be around those individuals and what we owe to them as a society, especially when it comes to older people.
Yeah.
Who were provide,
Like
social care is
people.
so much bigger, isn't it? It's so much
Yeah.
bigger than older people, but we talk about older people the most. But they're people who were promised cradle to grave care.
Mm.
And at the moment, what you find is they are seen as almost a burden to society.
And they're not.
And they're not, And when I hear about people, private funders, who say to me, well, we had two years worth of money, but of course she's lived longer. Well, that's a success. That's
Yeah.
because of the amazing
Well,
delivery of care. When I hear about people talking about how many people died in COVID in social care services, well, how many people did we save? How many
yeah.
people didn't die because of it?
Yeah.
We've got to stand up as a sector and say, actually, we're really good at what we do.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
deserve better.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you. That was a beautiful answer. That I think just gets everyone thinking, opening their mind, and seeing more than just the cynical and the negative and what's put out in newspapers. I just wanted to go. I want to have a bit of fun now. I think we need to go beyond the public leadership and learn a bit more about yourself, the person you are behind the work.
Gosh,
Are you happy to share a bit more with us?
I'll try.
So, first of all, what's something people would never guess about you from your titles or public work?
Never guess.
Would never guess
Well,
about you.
I think everybody can guess that I'm devoted to my children and my grandchildren. So but what would
Yeah.
they never guess?
Yeah.
I suppose that I do struggle with some anxiety periodically,
Right.
just
Yeah.
like everybody else. And that
Yes.
worsened post COVID.
Okay. Yeah. So that's very honest. Thank you for sharing that with us.
That's all
But
right.
also, it's, you are somebody very high up in my mind. And for you to go, I'm just like everyone else. I experience this. I hope somebody feels like I do right now, which is we're all human. And that,
Absolutely.
you know,
And I don't think it's a weakness to
no,
acknowledge
no.
it. I think it's actually a strength because sometimes it can be very, very challenging,
Yes.
if
Um,
you've got a high level of anxiety about
yeah.
something. And it will be small things. It'll be something that's, one of my grandson's not very well today, but it's only a temperature.
I'm
But the
sorry.
anxiety levels rise because they, oh my
Yeah.
God, he's not well. So I think it is that sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
No,
the
that's great.
human side of I mean,
Yeah.
people see me in a way that they think, "I can take the world, I can take any minister on. I'm not frightened of
No, you're not
standing my
frightened.
ground for the social care sector that I support."
No, we know you're not frightened.
But there are things that will make a difference, especially I think my family is very precious,
Yeah,
and it is for everybody, isn't it?
it is. And following on from that, what's a joy, hobby, or ritual that keeps you grounded when the work gets heavy?
Painting my nails.
Okay, think about that.
That's really interesting because from a very young age, I experimented with the way that I paint my nails.
Right.
So, so I do designs on my nails. I do it all myself. So when I
I want to
so
see these designs now.
let me see, let me,
You have to show me on another social media platform when you can. Oh, they're lovely. Oh, I
and
like the creativity.
I have nail charms.
My God.
Yeah. So so that is my calming. That's my calming moments. I will do
Wow.
my nails and gardening.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the 2 don't go together.
It's eating. No, that's brilliant. The nails look amazing. By the way, this is audio only, so I just want to explain. I saw lots
Yeah.
of bright colours, a little art hanging off one nail, loads of intricate designs. So that's fantastic. I love that. Who doesn't love creativity? Who is someone or which community that has shaped the way you lead and show up in the world?
So I think it is the whole of the it is everybody that I've met in my career from the very first care assistant that I employed
Yes.
to the team that I have in
Wow.
um in National Care Association today. Everybody has a different perspective of what social care is.
Mm.
And you have to enable that to grow. We are a community, we are a family. Social care is a family. And I get very concerned about this constant conversations about we're a disunited sector. I don't buy into that. And I don't think anybody should buy into that because all my colleagues who lead other national bodies, all of them, we all have very similar conversation. We just say it differently. So,
Absolutely.
and I'm very faith based. So
Yes.
my faith carries me very much so. I had a great upbringing. It wasn't lavish. My mother was a seamstress. My father was a teacher, worked
Right.
hard to
Yeah.
get to where they were. All of that holds me together.
Yeah.
The
What
knowledge and experience of all of that.
That's great. I mean, yeah, it's shaping where you are now. Perfect. I mean, thank you again for sharing that with us. That's really interesting. What's a lesson you learned the hard way that still guides you now?
Closing a care service
Yeah.
was a very difficult thing for
Yeah.
me, as I know it would be for everybody.
Mm.
It was done purely because we just could not afford to run it anymore
Yeah.
on the funding that we had. Kept me awake at night for several weeks before we made the decision, and then for several months after we made the decision.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I drove 2 seconds.
We're out of time. I get it.
No, no, it's not that. It's just my next guest has popped up. Is it okay just to pop off and get about that? I'm a bit tight today. Thank you.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
think that.
No, no. So
Okay.
clean, Andrew. Sorry, my fault. She was ahead of time and I'm behind time, so it's my fault. That's great. Thank you. And don't worry, we can edit these bits out, so don't panic. Yeah, no, so that's great. We've learned a little bit more about you. I've just got one more question. So we're just going to go into the final section, which is leadership, equity, and a better way forward. There's a growing appetite for change, but also fear. Fear of getting it wrong, fear of cost, fear of slowing things down. What would you say to leaders who know the current system isn't working but feel overwhelmed by the scale of change?
I think the first thing I'd say is they're not alone. Lots and lots of people feel that their change needs to come round the corner and they
Yeah,
need to get involved. They really need to get involved. And I said
yeah,
this to where I was yesterday, 200 providers in the room. Nobody can do this alone. And they are the leaders and they matter. Their thoughts, their actions matter. So when
yeah,
we say through the Providers Unite movement, through the care movement that we're also now supporting, get involved. The templates are there. Talk to your MPs. New councillors are coming into post. Nobody understands social care like you understand social care. You are the professionals.
yeah.
You're the
That's it.
investors in the
Yeah,
service. You're the people who've innovated.
yeah,
You're the ones who've moved from the what I was talking about, people walking up to our doorstep and wanting to come into care, to people being discharged out of hospital and you're
yeah.
delivering care to complex people. You're those people and you need to let that be known.
Yes.
Don't fear the future. The fact that you've got private equity buying into our sector does mean that it's a sector that will survive. It's
Mm,
how you do it and how we work together to make it happen.
brilliant. Brilliant. Final question. Looking ahead, what would you hope that dignity, equity, and a valued workforce can become the norm, not the exception?
I think it's critical. It's absolutely crucial. And that starts from the small communities that deliver care. Again, we go back. These are seeds of cultural change that need
Yeah,
to happen if it's not already there. Because every single person brings their whole heart to work when they come into a social care setting.
yeah,
And they deserve to be acknowledged and they deserve to be rewarded, as I've said over and
they
over
do.
again.
Yeah,
We upskill them, but then we can't take them any further when it comes
yeah.
to pay spines and things. And all of that matters. That
It
really
does.
matters.
And I think that's something the NHS need to look at as well. I'm going to throw that in there. Training people and not giving them jobs. It's been going on a long
Absolutely.
time.
And that includes doctors, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
and nurses.
got to look
I mean,
at
it's
that.
shocking. Statistics on that is absolutely
Mm.
shocking that we've got medics who cannot get jobs at
Yeah,
this moment in time. But I think from our perspective, we have got a workforce shortage. We have to value our workforce. We have to make sure it happens. And that starts with every single individual. This is about colleagues. This is about friends. This is about creating communities. I remember in my care home, I used to have a member of staff who used to come into work and my office they would pass by my office, but I used to see her standing at the front door with her back, and I asked her one day why she did that and she said, I feel safe when I come in here. People feel safe when they're happy and feel valued in a
yeah.
job.
What a great way to end it. Thank you, Nadra, so much for joining me today. What you've shared reminds us that leadership in care isn't abstract, it's lived. It's relational, it's about culture, courage, and the willingness to speak truth into systems that often resist it. You've shown us that workforce isn't a line in a budget, it's people, it's skill, commitment, and humanity. And you've reminded us that reform isn't possible without listening, without honesty, and without valuing the people who hold the system together every single day. For those listening, I invite you to reflect. Where in your own work do you see power held tightly, and where could it be shared? What would it look like to center workforce and lived experience, not as an afterthought, as the foundation? This has been continuing the conversation with Sadie. Until next time, take gentle care of yourselves, of each other, and of the communities you're part of so you can keep reflecting, caring, and growing. Thank you.
All good.